All right, let's dive right in. Picture this, Renaissance Florence. The city is just electric with creative energy. Art wasn't just something pretty to look at, it was a statement of power. And the competition between artists, it was absolutely brutal. And right in the middle of it all, you have two titans about to face off in what should have been the duel of the century.
But here's the thing that makes this story so incredible. What if I told you that this legendary showdown, this clash between two of the greatest minds in all of history, just fizzled out? No masterpiece, no winner, it just vanished, leaving behind this amazing mystery that people are still talking about today. So, the stage for this epic battle was the huge council hall in Florence's Palazzo Vecchio. Imagine this massive room. The city's bigwigs decided to commission two gigantic murals, one on each of the main opposing walls. Two vast, blank spaces, just waiting for two rival geniuses to make their mark.
But look, to really get what's going on here, you have to understand the men themselves. We're talking about Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo Buonarroti, and these guys were, in pretty much every single way, polar opposites. Their rivalry wasn't just professional, it was personal, it was philosophical, and everyone knew about it.
I mean, you couldn't find two more different people if you tried. On one side, you've got Leonardo. He's older, he's charming, always well-dressed, a true scientific mind who saw painting as this deep intellectual puzzle. And then there's Michelangelo, brooding, intense, often disheveled, a guy who was just completely consumed by this spiritual fire that drove all his work.
And this spilled over into how they even thought about art. Leonardo, the ultimate painter and inventor, he kind of looked down his nose at sculpture. To him, it was just a dirty, sweaty job, more of a craft, a mechanical art, than a true act of genius.
But Michelangelo? Oh, he saw it completely differently. For him, sculpting was practically a religious experience. He genuinely believed that the statue was already alive inside the block of marble, and his job was just to free it. I mean, that's a long, long way from mechanical art, right?
And believe me, this was not some quiet academic debate they had over a glass of wine. It got nasty, and it got public. There's a famous story where Michelangelo just humiliates Leonardo on the street, shouting at him about that giant bronze horse statue he failed to finish. He basically called him a failure in front of everyone, leaving Leonardo just red-faced and ashamed. Please remember to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell, share and like our videos. The information in the video is compiled from open sources. Thank you. So what do the leaders of Florence do? They see this fiery rivalry and they think, hey, we can use this. They decide to harness all that bad blood for the glory of the city, and they cook up this official head-to-head art competition. They were literally going to pit these two against each other.
And the setup was just brilliant. Leonardo was hired to paint the Battle of Anghiari, a famous victory over Milan. Michelangelo got the Battle of Cascina, a victory against Pisa. Two massive paintings celebrating Florentine glory on opposite walls in the same room. The challenge was officially on. And if you look at the timeline, you can see this was no accident. This was a setup. Leonardo gets the job in 1503. A year later, bam! Michelangelo's David is unveiled, and it's a sensation. Everyone is blown away. So what happens just a few months after that? The city gives him the competing commission. They were practically pouring gasoline on the fire.
So Leonardo, being Leonardo, approaches this like a scientist. All we have are his drawings, but they show this incredibly visceral, tangled knot of men and horses right in the heat of battle. He wanted to capture the absolute, raw, animal fury of war itself. Michelangelo, on the other hand, wow, he does something totally unexpected. He doesn't show the battle at all. He picks this weird, ordinary moment right before it, where a bunch of soldiers are bathing in a river and suddenly hear the call to arms. A bizarre choice, right? But it was the perfect excuse for him to do what he did better than anyone on the planet: paint the powerful, twisting, muscular human body in every pose imaginable. Okay, so the stage is set. We've got two completely different, totally brilliant visions for these masterpieces. The entire art world is on the edge of its seat, waiting to see who's going to come out on top. And then, nothing. The epic showdown never happens. Neither painting ever got finished. So what on earth went wrong? Well, with Leonardo, it was his own genius that betrayed him. He couldn't just paint a fresco like everyone else. No, he had to experiment with this new technique, using oil and wax he'd read about. And it was a complete catastrophe. The paint wouldn't dry. It started to run. He brought in fires to try and set it, and that just made it worse. The whole thing literally melted down the wall. Okay, so Leonardo's masterpiece is a drippy mess. What about Michelangelo's? Well, he actually finished a huge full-scale drawing of his scene that people said was incredible. But before he could even start painting on the wall, he got a call he couldn't ignore. Pope Julius II summoned him to Rome, and that was that. He left Florence and never came back to the project. Right. So total disaster on both sides. The whole thing's awash. So why do we even care about this story 500 years later? Why does it matter so much? Because, and this is the crazy part, their failure ended up being way more influential than success ever could have been. It's all because of what they left behind, not the paintings, but the drawings. For a while, these massive preparatory sketches, these cartoons, were put on display. And every artist in Italy, including a young guy named Raphael, flocked to see them. They studied every line. One artist, Benvenuto Cellini, later said they became the school of the world, basically the ultimate textbook for the next generation of masters. So when you boil it all down, the real legacy of this school wasn't a couple of paintings. It was so much more. This rivalry pushed both of them to the absolute edge of their creativity. Their wild ideas about how to paint a battle scene blew the doors off what art could be. And in the end, the story of their epic failure only made their legends bigger, creating one of the best stories in art history. And it leaves us with this really fascinating question, doesn't it? When you look at these two, you have to wonder, how much did that competition, that animosity, fuel their innovation? Does true genius actually need a rival to push it to its absolute highest level? It's something their incredible, unfinished story really makes you think about. Thanks for joining me.